North Carolina has already said no to Nico Iamaleava, but there's another ACC team that's being linked. Here's why we're not buying it.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers, and thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. He is Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. Transfer portal doesn't even officially open until midnight, but man, it's already churning. Cal is losing 4 running backs. Like, how many do they have on their roster? They're losing 4 running backs who all entered the portal last night. Syracuse is about to lose one of their top receivers, Trevor Pena. Now, Syracuse, Kenton, has also now been linked. They have odds on it at 20-1, and Clay Travis was writing an X post about it where he mentioned Syracuse as one of the possible suitors for, former Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava, who we've talked about a lot in recent episodes. But KG, you tell me first, would you be buying the possible links to Syracuse after everything that's gone on with him? I'm not.
I would if I thought that Syracuse had the money. I think that everybody needs to realize something about this. These coaches are lying to you all. And we really need to be honest about this. Because at this point, I'm getting sick and tired of this high and mighty act from these coaches. Oh, we put culture before everything, and we want upstanding young men before everything. I have spoken on my show on Locked On Wolfpack about, hey, Coach X, Y, and Z brought in player A, B, and C who did thing L, C, and D in the past that was not necessarily the best thing. And I've owned that about, hey, this coach is willing to bring in this player who had a charge against him. We're talking about a man who asked for more money here. And we're talking as if he's murdered somebody. Like, this is a situation.
It's a fair point.
Where again, the money does not add up for Syracuse. The money, I don't think that they have extra $2-3 million in the coffers laying around to do this, but the need is there. And this is the last thing I'm going to say to it, and I'm going to pass it back to you because I know I get a little Southern preacher about these things. But when we look at this, if Nico had made this decision 3 months earlier, would this even be a story?
No.
If
not
Nico
nearly
did
as
this
big
3 months ago, if he said, I want more money, I'm leaving to get paid 3 months ago, everybody would say, I mean, you're one of the highest paid players in college, but get your money. It makes sense. It is because right now we are in the point of the sports cycle where the WNBA draft, the NBA playoff first round, the NHL wild card race, that's what the big thing is in the news cycle right now. So when we get something from football, we have to clamor onto it. But let's stop pretending like all of these coaches are men of such great character. And I love me some Fran Brown. So this is not a denigration or castigation of Fran Brown. This is of this all these coaches. We would never. We want a certain type of young man on our team. Another SEC team just had one of their boys go to, it wasn't media day or anything like that, but when asked what's the motto of the defensive line this year, it was choke women out. It was CBO, but he replaced B with women. Like, let's stop pretending as if this is like, oh, yeah, nobody's going to take anybody that's not a choir boy. That's not how this works. Yeah. But again, the money ain't there. It's not about the morality or, oh, it's too much of a distraction.
Well, and the funny thing is, I don't necessarily think Nico is going to end up getting anywhere near the money he wanted.
I agree.
Because
I agree.
I think Tennessee, very successfully kind of got in front of this thing, and Josh Heupel and the Volunteers in the court of public opinion look a lot better than Nico. Nico has been characterized as someone who is basically trying to leverage the system in, the worst possible way when people talk about the timing, that he went through 14 spring practices and then holds out of the last one, and he's putting himself over his team. You made a great point. I mean, he didn't kill anybody. People are kind of acting as if he did. But I really feel like his market is he's probably going to end up making less money than Tennessee was going to pay him under his original NIL deal. I mean, there was one, I was reading an ESPN article today. And, obviously this is just one man's opinion, but a general manager at a Power 4 school said, quote, "I think he has zero market. It will be an interesting test of how smart and disciplined colleges are in looking at him." Now, from the Syracuse point of view, from a purely football standpoint, you could argue that why not kick the tires on Nico, because it's a lot more proven than anything else they have in that building. Ricky Collins, who's already been named their starting quarterback, is an unproven commodity. I know he's got some pedigree in the fact that he was on LSU's roster, and that's where he transferred from. So clearly he was an excellent player coming out of high school. But Ricky Collins is a really unproven commodity, trying to compare him to what, Kyle McCord was last year, who exceeded our expectations because he didn't do a whole lot at Ohio State. He really blossomed at Syracuse. But yeah, I mean, if I'm Fran Brown and I'm looking from a purely football standpoint, I say, okay, I have a very unproven quarterback right now that's my starter. This guy, and again, we can scrutinize Nico's numbers, under 3,000 passing yards, a lot of handoffs, but it's a lot more proven than the guy you currently have. But at the same time, why I have a hard time feeling like Syracuse are going to be the ones to make a big swing here is that Fran Brown seems to be the type of guy that preaches no nonsense, no distractions. It's not about money here. So whether this would be completely true or not would look really hypocritical, I think, if that was the team to go out and grab Nico.
Yeah, and I, from that standpoint, I agree. But again, a lot of these coaches, I'm not going to say they're going to have egg on their face, because I don't think that Nico is a superstar player right now. I think he's a superstar talent. I think that he has the arm talent to make every throw, all that good stuff. Superstar talent, a superstar player does not make. I played with many a guy that, when you put him in shorts and t-shirt, he can run around, he can do everything at a level you're like, oh, he's got to be an all-star. Then you put him on the field and it's like, let's save him for a special package. Let's But with that being said, a lot of these coaches are taking these righteous indignation moments when it's like, stop. Your team does not have the quarterback room to justify that stance. I can't remember what GM it was, but this is an NFL GM that said if Hannibal Lecter could make a tackle, we'd just say he had an eating problem. Like let's stop playing around here. Yeah. Nico may not be, again, he has not proven himself to be a first-round pick NFL guy yet. He has not. He got paid $2 million to sit on the bench his freshman year. That is a factual statement.
Yeah.
He did not perform very well redshirt freshman year. Factual statement. Going into this third year, the pressure was going to be on, and he wanted more money going into this year. I get it. But let's stop acting like, oh, we're too good to kick the tires. We just don't want to make sense that, oh, it's too much of a distraction. You know what the biggest distraction is? Losing.
Losing games, yeah.
Losing makes everything more distracting.
Yeah.
When they find out you got the toughest schedule, which, by the way, congratulations, Syracuse, because of this move by Nico, your schedule just got a whole heck of a lot easier.
That's a great point.
It got a whole heck of a lot easier. So
yeah.
you're looking at a situation where, again, would it make sense in terms of the things that Fran Brown preaches? No. But would it make sense in terms of the current makeup of his roster? I'll ask you, Donno, do you think they have any quarterback that if they threw for 4,000 yards next year, you would be like, that checks out? That makes sense.
No.
Oh, okay. If Nico threw for 4,000 yards next year, would you say that checks out? That makes sense.
I mean, to be honest, not based on what he did last year, but I would be less surprised because of his pedigree.
Again, he's a superstar talent. He has not figured it out under Hyper, but we've seen it time and time again where a guy cannot figure it out at one place. They go elsewhere, and then all of a sudden, they take off like a rocket. Jamison
Kyle
Williams
McCord.
was nobody at Ohio State. He took off and went down to Alabama. All of a sudden, what happened? Oh, he's a first-round pick. Oh, he's a top 15 pick. So, again, we can pretend. We
Think
can
of
play
other quarterbacks like, when Joe Burrow left Ohio State, I don't think any Buckeye fans were losing any sleep over that. And he went on 2 years later, had one of the greatest quarterback seasons ever at LSU.
Justin Fields at Georgia. The list goes on and on and on about all these guys. And it was like, oh, he's no good. He can't do it. Or the guy above him is just a little better. Anybody want to tell me where Jake Fromm is these days? What he's up to? Anybody know? Anybody have a clue? Oh, okay. All right. But that's my point.
He's clerking a Circuit City right now.
But that's my point. That's my point. He's the regional manager for Toys R Us. But that's my point. That's my exact point, right? Like we sit here and say, like, oh, we know what Nico is or is not. Maybe a change of scenery would be good for him. And here's the biggest deal. Maybe this humbling will get him to a better place. But again, it won't be at Syracuse. It won't be at UNC. It won't be at very likely any ACC school because, again, these guys are sitting on their high horse saying, hey, we're not playing it. We're not taking that kind of guy. And, more power to them. I hope it works out for all of them in terms of their quarterback room and what they're doing.
Well, and also his options are automatically a little bit limited because the SEC does not allow SEC to SEC transfers in April. So you can immediately eliminate every other school in the SEC because of that, unless he wants to go the Xavier Lucas route and just completely challenge, the alleged rules. But I don't think that's in the cards there. But there's some other Syracuse actual transfer news and not just speculation. Plus, Miami's lost a couple of defensive players into the portal. NC State has lost a couple of offensive players into the portal. Let's talk about portal losses when we come back. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on Locked On ACC. Guys, the only ticket app that Kenton and I use is Game Time. And why not? You're getting the best features, the best prices right up to the last minute. In fact, the prices go down on Game Time the closer you get. And there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game, which we have coming up. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Guys, the all-in pricing feature means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. I love getting a panoramic view from my seat in the app before I buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. He's Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. Make Locked On Wolfpack your next listen and check out Locked On Canes. I host that. It's been a lot to talk about, I think, on both of our other shows when it comes to transfer portal. So far, and again, the portal doesn't actually officially open until the 16th. Miami has lost a defensive tackle, Josh Horton. Not that surprising. His career to this point has just been marred by injuries, has not been able to practice consistently and move up the ladder. He's going to try for a clean slate somewhere else. 3 years of eligibility left, 6'4", 300+ pounds. He can end up being really good somewhere. I think the more surprising one for Miami was Zaquan Patterson, who's heading into his second year as a safety. Didn't have a great freshman year, but most of Miami's defensive backs weren't very good last year. He's a high 4-star coming out of high school at Chaminade in South Florida. He missed most of Miami's spring with injury this year, so I didn't really have a great sense as to where Zaquan was trending heading into next year, but Patterson's going to be in the portal. I would imagine, Kenton, that within the next couple of days, there's probably going to be maybe close to another half dozen Miami players, hopefully no starters who, end up hitting the portal. I see NC State has lost a few guys into the portal already. Receiver Dakari Collins, who started his career at Clemson. I think you guys are losing a running back as well. What's going on with NC State with their portal losses?
I think that what's going on with NC State, what's going on with Miami is just indicative of where we are in college sports. I mean, we're not naming guys that we're like, hey, this is a superstar talent, because that's normally not what you see leaving at this time. Now we'll get to a little later a guy who is borderline that superstar type of guy who is leaving his school. But for the most part, when you get to the spring portal, it's guys who the numbers game just doesn't really work out well for them. And I said on Locked On Wolfpack, when you think about Kendrick Raphael and Dakari Collins, those are two guys I've only heard good things about. I've only heard great things about them. I have not heard anybody say a bad word about them. The unfortunate part is, even last year when NC State had Jordan Waters from Duke and Hollywood Smothers and Kendrick Raphael, who were all playing, while a backup running back named Duke Scott was redshirting, I heard from multiple people, Duke Scott is not the third best running back on this team. He is just not. And I said, well, that math don't work out, because there are 3 guys playing and he's redshirting. Well, do the math again this year. It makes sense that, somebody got passed up. The same thing for Dakari Collins. He was returning as our third leading returning receiver, and that's if you include the exit of Kevin Concepcion. But again, the numbers are really, really tough. And I've spoken ad nauseum about how good that wide receiver recruiting class was for NC State in terms of 2023, 2024. So, the numbers game works out how it does. And I will tell you, I'm a little bit more concerned about Miami's interior, because, I mean, you all have 4 defensive tackles on scholarship now? Like, that's a little bit worrisome in my book.
Probably about 5. So here's the thing, but the thing is, like, Josh Horton was probably not going to be a factor at that position.
Right.
So it doesn't really change my outlook from Miami. Like, Miami needed to add a defensive tackle or 2, because I just couldn't count on Josh Horton to get healthy and play. So I don't think that the math really changes, but the math doesn't stop mathing, Kenton, and Miami still needs to add guys at defensive tackle, because there's a really clear top 3. And that's and they're all, I like them all, the top 3: Justin Scott, Joshua Horton, or not Josh Ward, that's the guy who's transferring, Justin Scott, David Blay, who transferred in from Louisiana Tech, and Ahmad Moten. Like that's my top 3. They've got some other younger guys, Artavius Jones, Dante Simpson, Micah Newton, but really young, unproven guys there. But like, there's a clear top 3. Miami would like to have like 5 guys that they could really, count on to rotate in and play in that position. But
of course, that's what you need.
Yeah.
You need that number just about in the ACC or in any Power 4 football, or else you're going to be in some big trouble. Because again, that's I'm telling you, as a defensive lineman that was medically retired, it's a very physically grueling position to be in there and have 200-300 pounders coming down on you every play. It's not easy.
No, certainly not. So all right, let's talk about what I would argue to this point, right? Maybe the most impactful ACC player to hit the transfer portal is Trevor Pena from Syracuse, who was first or second in every receiving category this past season for the Orange, led the team in receptions with 84, second on the team in receiving yards with 941, first on the team with 9 touchdowns this past year. I mean, Trevor Pena with a B, had an awesome season this past year. He's actually being linked potentially to an ACC school and a Big 12 school. Miami and Texas Tech are the 2 teams that seem to be so far like out in front for Trevor Pena. But this is, Kenton, this is obviously very impactful for Syracuse, who, we already talked about their uncertainty at the quarterback position, and Pena would have been their most reliable top returning receiver this year.
He was absolutely going to be the safety blanket for whatever quarterback was going to be the guy. He was absolutely going to be the steady veteran presence in a pass catching group that, again, you've got to replace some guys now. Like that's a group that, objectively speaking, outside of Pena, you were going to have to replace a good amount of production there. And you get him to stay throughout the spring and then he leaves. That's a little worrisome, because why does a guy with his profile leave in the spring? This isn't a guy that anybody's like, the wide receivers are nipping at Trevor's heels. No, that's not what was happening there. So I'm very intrigued to see what the situation is there, and obviously where he lands, because you and I talked about the spring portal. You have already gone through spring ball. You have already gotten hundreds of reps in with these guys with pads on, saying this is what this looks like. This is how this route feels. This is how he throws this ball. And so, whatever he saw from those quarterbacks, whatever he saw from that team was enough for him to say, actually, I'm good here. I'm good here. Because, of course, neither of the teams that are linked to him would do anything in terms of tampering. They would not do that. So
never.
He hops in. He hops in the portal under, completely under his own volition and based on his own decision with no outside influence. I'm interested to see where he lands.
Well, let me say something though. And this is not to, defend anybody, but like, I honestly don't know what tampering, what that word actually means in college football anymore, because to my understanding, third parties are able to make contact without technically violating tampering rules. Like, how is it that the transfer portal hasn't officially opened? Hear me out. I'm listening. Hear me out. I'm listening. So, like, how is it the transfer portal hasn't even opened yet, and you already see guys getting crystal balled to go to certain places? Like, how does that happen? Like, we mentioned UNC is out of the Nico sweepstakes, but, UNC has been crystal balled to land Gio Lopez, the starter from South Alabama. Like, you see, like, and we'll talk about the Cal running backs, but I already see Jaden Ott getting heavily linked to Oklahoma. It's like, how does any of this happen when the portal's not open? Like, one of the players that is transferring away from Miami, his uncle, who's kind of his agent, this is the uncle of Zaquan Patterson, is talking about his phone is ringing nonstop from these third parties. And so it's like, I don't even know if tampering exists, Kenton, because like, I think tampering just means an official staffer or coach cannot contact a player. It doesn't mean like some street agent or third party can't. It's happening everywhere.
It's one of those things, when you were a kid and your brothers and sisters were annoying you and they were like, oh, I'm not touching you. And their finger was right up on you. This feels like one of those things where it's like, I, as the head coach of Middle Eastern Delta Valley State, didn't tell anybody that I didn't talk to you directly. I may have put a bird in somebody's ear that didn't put a bird in your ear that said, hey, I think they like you a lot over there. They like you a lot over there. The Tulsa Golden Hurricanes may want you a lot, and what do you think about joining the Canes potentially? Because, of course, the Canes on this show do not do any tampering, and they wouldn't do anything like that.
Of course not.
Crystal ball don't care about no crystal ball. Not him. But the other slimy coaches out there, those guys, right. I'm sure that they're working there. I will tell you this, Donno. It is very interesting to see how you're right, and the third parties are very loosely allowed to kind of do their thing here. And I think that this all, at the end of the day, all of this comes back to the NCAA moved like the mafia for too long, and now they have no control over anything. Instead of just making sensible, normal rules and say, you know what, we kind of got to get out in front of this and like be fair to these kids. Instead, they were suspending guys for getting bagels and cream cheese, and now all of a sudden you got guys leaving even though they're getting paid $2 million. This is the monster. This is the monster that you all bore. When they told us Peter Warwick was the worst man in the world for getting a shirt or something like that, and all of a sudden now we are where we are. Okay.
Yeah, because like I remember like 10 years ago, Shabazz Napier, who played basketball, I think at UConn, was complaining because like he was hungry, like he couldn't get a free bagel at midnight He was hungry because of NCAA rules, and now we can't stop third parties. Man, I feel like Cal fans probably would imagine there's some tampering going on, because how many running backs can you possibly lose in one day? I didn't even know how many they had on scholarship. Cal has lost 4 within a 24-hour span. 4 running backs hitting the transfer portal. We'll talk about it next year on Locked On ACC. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on things like food delivery and streaming services. I budget smarter now and I save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can just use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, I mean, this time of year, you got to check out our friend Brian Smith on the Portal podcast. Brian was on with us so much, like people thought we had a third host for a while. He's done so many episodes with us. You want to check out his podcast, talking all of the madness of the transfer portal on the Portal podcast. Speaking of madness, Kenton, within one day, Cal Golden Bears have lost running back Byron Cardwell is in the portal. Jaden Ott, a show favorite, Ott to go, is now to go. He's available in the portal. Justin Williams-Thomas, who I didn't put up any stats last year. He's a well-traveled guy. I think he's played for like 3 different teams, including Stanford. He went from Stanford to Cal somehow. Now he's available again. And Kadarius Callaway is also available. Now, between Callaway, Ott, and Byron Cardwell, like that was, among 3 of the leading rushers on the Golden Bears this past season. Let's remember, they also, lost their star quarterback Fernando Mendoza to Indiana in the winter transfer portal. So the Cal Golden Bears are going to look a lot different this coming season, Kenton. And what kind of do they hate their running backs, coach? How do you lose 4 running backs in one day?
There are times where, like we've talked about earlier in this episode, there are times where the numbers game gets you. There are times where health gets you. There are times where these different things get you. I don't understand how you see 4 guys transfer out of a room in the same time, at the time that's the least ideal to transfer. Yeah. Again, we have talked about this time and time again. You are fresh out of spring ball, and for the people who are like, oh, spring doesn't really matter that much, it's only fall camp that matters. What do you think sets your depth chart going into fall camp? Just out of curiosity, just for kicks and giggles. I can tell you as a guy that's been through it, 9 times out of 10, that depth chart is set by what happened in the spring. And then guys are battling either uphill battles or it's their spot to lose because of what they did. So to see all these guys saying, hey, I've got to get out of here, I've got to go somewhere else all at once, I mean, this is kind of unheard of, because running back is one of those positions multiple guys can play. Multiple guys, you can have a situation where you have multiple star backs. I mean, and this is even during the bell cow era of 20 some odd years ago, you had Reggie Bush and Lindell White doing it together. And you see now more than ever, every school has 2 or 3 running backs. If you don't have at least 2, you're in an extremely compromising situation. So I'm genuinely shocked as to 4 running backs all getting into the portal at once. Somebody check on our good friend Lawrence Ross. Somebody check on him. I know he's not doing well, but we go to have him on soon again to talk about this, because we
should invite him back on. But when he sees Kenton Gibbs or Alex Donno on the caller ID, he's going to slam the phone. He's like, no, not now. I'm not talking to these guys now.
Yeah, he's got his whiskey and the sad music playing. He's got Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. I miss you going on watching some J9 highlights. Hey, don't worry about it. It's. I will say this: this is the most active I've seen the spring portal be ever, in terms of guys who may not be starters, may be starters, but fringe level or better guys. I've never seen it this active.
They're going to have to, whoever wears the Oski suit, their very scary looking bear that they're just going to take off the suit and suit up and go play running back for them. I think, unless he transferred already, and I think Javion Thomas is still there.
Javion is still there.
Their top. Yes. He's still there. He was their top rusher last year. Had 620. It was very much a committee approach last year for them. Thomas had 100 carries for 626 yards. So he's back, but I don't know if they got a bunch of walk-ons after Javion. Nobody else on that team. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe Lawrence Ross can be one of those like third-party tamperers, and he can help them out recruit some guys.
All I'm saying is this: Javion is about to relive that scene from Holes. I'm tired of this, coach. That's too damn bad. Get the ball and run with it. That's what's about to happen here. Because he's right. Gonna need some relief, man. They better have the Normatex ready. They better have the ice tubs ready, or else, like you said, go get in that portal and go get you some ball players. I mean, even if you don't have the money right now, you still have something that's worth a lot, and that's exposure. You can still say, "Hey, I know right now you're playing that Cal Polytech or whatever. Come on over here. Come on over. Come get some of this because." You were the leading rusher at Wyoming last year. Come on, man. Come on. Have you been on ESPN yet? Have you been not the main one? Not online. They got to Google you. Have you been on the
Have you been on the Ocho?
Have you been on the Ocho? If you're playing football on the Ocho, come transfer to here. Come to Death Row.
That's right. Well, thanks to everyone for making Locked On ACC your first listen. Make sure you check Kenton out on X at TGIF_Kenton and at Locked On Wolfpack. Check me out at Locked On Canes. And we'll talk to everyone again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.